very good talks with very good people, I would like to introduce John Kim. Like most of you know John by his bright and exciting speeches during the conferences and his lectures. Some of you know John even personally. And like all of us know John Kim as a super entrepreneur and angel investor. And we are really pleased and excited to have you, John, here at VGS and share your own insights on how to get success in such corona times. And so, John, it's your turn, and
Okay,
I
thank
will
you.
switch the presentation.
Okay, great. Well, VGS team, thank you for having me. This is, I wish we were meeting in person where we could actually have a real drink together, but I guess in these Corona times, this will have to do. You know, I've been meaning to give this talk for a while, and I want to set a timer here just so I can get through all of this in about 45 minutes so that we can leave about 15, 20 minutes for questions. You know, um, people that know me know that I don't believe I'm a super entrepreneur. Sometimes I can be a super asshole, but that's the only super that people that know me well would say about me. And I have a deep fundamental belief that anyone can be successful. In this day and age, anyone can be successful. Now, that doesn't mean 100% of the population. If you took a look at 100 people, the bottom 20 out of 100, right? Maybe not have a sub 100 IQ, maybe they're not so young and good looking like some of you. Okay, life is going to be very difficult for them. That just sucks. They did not win the genetic lottery. And the upper 2%, 1 out of 50 people, are probably genetically brilliant people. A lot of them can be a little bit lazy because they know they're smart and they don't have to work as hard. But you're now looking at 78 out of 100 people can be as successful or more successful than me. And I know that for a fact. Okay. A little bit about me. I'm the founder of a large company called Five9. It's about a now almost $5 billion publicly traded company that had an IPO, like VGS will one day soon. I'm also the founder of a small company. We did a healthcare company with Arena's boyfriend, Misha, and we built a way for doctors and patients to be able to text message and email each other securely. And we built that up to about 9 million Americans and 18,000 doctors. And it was a great lesson in building something you really loved, that you really thought was going to be good for the world. And I think this talk is important, or at least timely, because I started both companies in recessions. I started my first company in the great 2001 dot-com bubble bursting, and I started Dr. Base with Misha in the great recession of 2008. Recessions, it turns out, are great times to start a business or a side hustle or be working at a great company like VGS. That's a well-funded startup. Today, I'm the CEO of a company called JetBridge. We're a software services company, but we take all of our profits and we invest in other startups. Already in 20, we've invested in 3 startups, and we're looking to do a lot more. I'm also a sector agnostic angel, meaning I invest in different types of companies, a lot of Y Combinator companies, but really any company that I believe is in a big market with great founders, right? So unlike traditional investors who are probably a lot more smart and a lot more analytical than me, I focus really on the quality of the founders and how big the market is. And so far, my most successful angel investment is probably a company called Rappi, which raised about $1 billion from SoftBank, which used to be a good thing until WeWork, and now it's 50-50, as they say in Ukraine. I also love Ukraine. As some of you know, my wife is Ukrainian, half my best friends are Ukrainian, and even now I I really miss being in Kiev because summertime in Kiev is, come on, it's the best place in the world. Okay, that's right. Next slide. I am really the product of 10,000 mistakes. And as I tell my wife, it's not that I'm smart. It's that most people act like fucking idiots. Now, act is the important word. They aren't fucking idiots. They just act like fucking idiots most of the time. And mostly this is because we live in a world of fear, right? We have a fear of failure, a fear of rejection. I get it. In Europe, there's even a fear of hard work, right? Um, and so this saps our courage from us. And so I know I'm talking to a very sophisticated audience. You guys, you work at VGS. VGS has a great reputation here in Silicon Valley. So I can only imagine they've got a great reputation in Ukraine. I've actually met some fantastic VGS people like Maria and Irina, and any company that has ladies like this working, you know, it's a great organization. So I know I'm talking to very smart people. Some of these 10 rules are going to seem obvious, but it took me 21 years of acting like a fucking idiot and 10,000 mistakes to learn these. So we'll try to learn them, or I'll try to go over them in 45 minutes. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Whoever is,
It's
Yulia, are
me
you controlling
here,
the,
controlling,
oh,
but
can we,
it went out.
okay, as we figure out how to move to the next slide, the first rule, and probably the most important rule, is knowing that the greatest risk is not taking risk. I remember the first developer we hired in Ukraine was a guy named Oleg, very nice guy. And I gave him a choice. I said, do you want $3,500 a month with no stock options, or do you want $4,000 a month? Um, uh, excuse me, $4,000 a month, no stock options, or you want $3,500 a month with stock options? And he said, give me the 4,000. I want the extra $500. So I said, okay. I'm just curious though. You know, I was brand new to Ukraine. I didn't really understand the mentality and culture yet. I'd never heard someone say, give me $500, don't give me the stock options. So thanks, Oleg, why? Why do you want the $500? I'm just curious. It's fine. It's your choice. And he said, in Ukraine, we can't eat stock options. I said, Oleg, in San Francisco, we don't eat stock options either. We buy houses with them, right? Equity, of course, it comes with risk, right? Even if you're a VC funded startup, 4 out of 5 VC funded startups go out of business. Having equity assumes risk, but you have to understand the greatest risk in this world where everything moves so fast. The greatest risk is not taking risk. Do we? No? Okay. Before we move on to the next slide, let me tell you a personal story. This is sad but true. When I was starting my first company, Five9, I was going to start it with my roommate from university. My roommate worked for a startup that got bought by Cisco, you know, the huge multi-billion-dollar network gear company. And now he was working at Cisco. And I said, Elliot, we should really do our own startup one day. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So I flew to Boston. He had moved to Boston where he was working at Cisco. And, you know, we got drunk, we smoked marijuana, we got all excited. We were like, we're going to quit our jobs on Monday and start our own company. I swear. Monday comes and he doesn't call me, but I already quit my job on Monday, right? Tuesday doesn't call me. Wednesday, like, where the fuck is Elliot, right? On Thursday, he calls me and he says, bro, I'm so sorry. I decided I can't quit my job. I had already quit my job, right? So I asked him if he knew anyone else at Cisco that might be crazy enough to want to join my startup of one person, right? I'm not a software developer, right? What am I going to do? Um, and he introduced me to one other engineer who quit, and the two of us started what would end up being an almost $5 billion company. Now, here's what happened. The idea for my first company was virtual call centers. Why? Because that's the division that Elliot worked at Cisco, was the call center equipment division. He thought it was too risky to quit Cisco to work with me to create a startup version of the Cisco product. Well, what ended up happening? He ended up getting fired from the company because that division was slowly shrinking. Why was that division slowly shrinking? Because there was a new technology called 5.9 that was eating its market share. You don't think this kid, Elliot, stays up at least, I don't know, every day, once a week, staring at the ceiling, thinking, fuck, why did I not take risk? Think about it. He could have been the co-founder of a $5 billion company. Instead, he got laid off because that startup he was too scared to join killed his job. The greatest risk is not taking risk. And I want to tell you 3 secrets of successful people that have money. The first secret is they know the greatest risk is not taking risk. And I think a lot of people thought that working at Sequelum or a big company was safe because you guys are, most of you are too young to know a recession. Recessions always come every 7, 8 years, like the Game of Thrones winter, it always comes. And so old people like me know the greatest risk is not taking risk. How safe is your job at Sequelum right now? Because I heard they're laying off a bunch of people. Okay, I'm sorry, next slide. Slide number, okay, great. The second rule is this, and I know this is in emerging economies, I understand the culture is different, right? In very rich cities like San Francisco, you're not supposed to talk about money. My friend bought an Aston Martin. He works at Facebook. He bought 2 cars. One, the Aston Martin, which he kept in secret, and 2, a small like economy car. It wasn't a Prius, but it was something like a Prius, which he drove to Facebook, so no one would know that he, made a lot of money. He came through the Oculus Rift acquisition. In emerging economies, it's really about flaunting what you have and sometimes what you don't have, right? We call it fake it till you make it. And again, I know money is more important than money. Money is the most important thing in emerging economies, and I understand that. But we are now hurtling towards a future that is the personal reviews economy, right? Meaning everyone here is a personal brand, right? Just like a restaurant, just like a hotel, soon we're all going to be getting reviews, right? And if you're a CEO, you're already used to this because there's reviews of us on a website called Glassdoor. Some of them are not so nice, right? Understanding that reputation is your credit score, right? And a high credit score lets you get leverage. It lets you borrow money from investors, right? It lets you get credit from partners. Reputation is more important than money. And I think, especially in emerging economies, this is a very, very important concept, right? The funny thing about recessions is reputations are made or destroyed during recessions. It's easy when everyone's making money and times are good and VCs are funding every good or bad idea. It's easy for CEOs and managers to say, oh, we promote women, we promote ethnic minorities, we're all about saving the world on a sustainable planet and scalable ways of. But when a recession comes, you'll see a lot of those people, even if they have money in the bank, they just fire their employees or ask their employees to take a salary reduction. Why they don't take a reduction at all. Recessions are really where reputations are made and broken. This is a really important concept. I understand in certain parts of the world, you can kind of be an asshole or cheat someone, but someone else will hire you because, well, everyone needs developers or QA people. I assure you, this is very short-term thinking. Never burn your bridges. Even if you fucking hate your boss, always leave that job with a good handshake and a smile and a, what can I do to help you transition out as smoothly as possible? Never throw a hand grenade and walk out with a smile. You're fucking yourself. I promise you. Reputation is more important than money. Next slide. Okay. I talked to one of my friends, a brilliant Harvard-educated doctor named Cam here in San Francisco, and he worked for McKinsey. And Cam said, wherever you go into a McKinsey office, guys know McKinsey is the very famous consulting firm. They famous for hiring the smartest kids from Stanford and Harvard. He said, wherever you go to a McKinsey office, one in Abu Dhabi or one in New York, the culture is all the same. I said, how is that? Because I'm kind of going back between Ukraine and San Francisco, and it's, difficult for me sometimes. And he said, because the thing we hire for is conscientiousness, right? And this is something that I've seen make successful people, not just successful in business, like, oh, you made a lot of money or you became vice president of VGS at 29 years old. I mean, successful in life. You're going to have a successful marriage. You're going to successfully make sure your parents are happy as they get older, right? You're going to be a successful parent, mother, father, whatever. And I've seen this about people, and I call this the 3 C's, right? And at JetBridge, we really look for the 3 C's because people that learn to discipline themselves around having the 3 C's, you don't have it all the time, right? But you really, like a religion, you're not a saint, you're not perfect under the eyes of God, but you try to go to church, right? So the 3 C's are the same thing. You're always trying to be these 3 C's. The first is curiosity, right? I have not seen a successful entrepreneur that was not an intensely curious person. And if you're not a curious person by nature and you're kind of naturally a little bit lazy, like me, you can force yourself to be curious by reading books. And I'll get into this in a little later, right? If your curiosity is what's the next great series on Netflix, that's not curiosity, right? If you're curious because you're a UI UX designer about the fundamentals of psychology, and there's a great course at Duke University, which you can buy online as an audiobook about the fundamentals of human psychology. It's an amazing education for UI UX designers, almost mandatory. No one thinks about that, but it's an incredible education on how human beings think about things like user journeys, right? That's curiosity, right? It's a long audio. It'll take you 4 or 5 hours to get through it, but be curious, force yourself to be curious. The second is character, right? Character, look, I see this a lot. We interview a lot at JetBridge. We interview over 110 CVs, 130 CVs sometimes to bring through the interview process to hire one. And the reason we don't hire most people we interview is because they lack character, right? They say things like, my 5-year goal is to be working on a beach in Thailand because I could do my job from anywhere. And I love beaches and I love warm weather, right? But think about this. Is this the person you want to marry? The guy or the girl that wants to kick it on the beach for the rest of their life, right? Or you want to be with someone ambitious, right? Not necessarily make a lot of money, but have an impact, create something cool, work with a super smart team of people reinventing security, right? Character, having high character is about being ambitious, and being ethical. And you're ethical because you know reputation is more important than money, right? And we talked about conscientiousness. Um, Not everyone has to become a manager or a CTO or a vice president or CEO or whatever. But if you do, no one's going to follow you and be proud to call you their leader unless they feel like you have their best interest at heart, unless they feel like you are going to put their needs above theirs, right? Or as the great Simon Sinek, he's got great YouTube video says, unless they know you are going to eat last, right? And this is a character of conscientious people. Conscientious people, you don't have to ask them to answer a Slack message on Sunday. They're conscientious. They don't say, oh my God, my company makes me work on Sunday. This is bullshit. No, they're like, look, someone needs my help. It's my teammate or it's one of our customers. I want to help them. It's going to take me 10 minutes, right? Conscientiousness is a primary trait of most good leaders, right? So curiosity, character, conscientiousness, make it your religion. It is absolutely a trait of successful people. Okay, next slide. Okay. Here in San Francisco, we have this thing called fake it till you make it. Lots of people arrive to San Francisco. You don't know who they are. You have no idea where the fuck they're from, but suddenly they are Mr. Silicon Valley, right? They're dropping all these names, Vinod Khosla, this, that. They're going to all the right parties. Anytime you ask them how they're doing, they're talking about, well, I'm doing good, especially now because my fully distributed, fault-tolerant, back-end scalable technology is doing amazing, and we're going to get a Series A from Vinod Khosla, and they just won't shut the fuck up about how amazing they are and all the things they're doing in the valley, right? And we call it fake it till you make it. In emerging economies, I've noticed there's this thing called what I call BBM syndrome, big boss man syndrome. And I can't tell you how many meetings I have of people that have this big boss man syndrome, right? They request a meeting with me, and the first thing that they want to do in this meeting is establish how fucking amazing they are. They're so successful. They know all the politicians of Ukraine. They got this, they've got 5 businesses. They know so-and-so. They just had a meeting with Pinchuk, and Pinchuk introduced them to Bono. And look, they went to Davos and they took 500 selfies at Davos. Fuck BBM syndrome. Here's the problem with BBM syndrome, right? Even if you're a genius, 75% of your assumptions are wrong, and 90% of your ideas are not good businesses. They're just not good ideas. This is assuming you're a genius. If you're not a genius, like me, then most of your assumptions are wrong, and most of my ideas are shit, right? The other problem with BBM syndrome is, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, you always want to be elevating who you're hanging out with or who you're associating with, or who you have the ability to send a Facebook message and have them respond back to you with data, right? The problem with BBM syndrome is that these successful people, they know BBM syndrome, right? And the minute you exhibit BBM syndrome, they immediately classify you as a fake it till you make it or a BBM syndrome person. This is a bad place to be, right? And I see honestly, way too much of it in Ukraine, way too much. Here's the thing, humility, and my wife will tell you I have a giant ego, so I have to fake humility sometimes, but humility, you will find, opens doors. And I'll show you how that works in just a minute. Okay, fuck BBM syndrome, right? I gave a talk at Kiev Polytechnic, and a smart guy was answering a lot of questions. You know, his product had become #2 on Product Hunt that day, and he exhibited BBM syndrome. In fact, he told me, like, Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're number two on Product Hunt. We don't need you. Um, Number two on Product Hunt doesn't mean anything, right? Fuck BBM syndrome, right? It's a bad, bad mental framework. Okay, next slide. Okay, so one of the things that I've noticed, and this is especially true for certain cultures where you're taught, don't complain, don't speak up. And this is especially true for women in the workforce where they may feel like maybe there's some discrimination or a glass ceiling. But what I've noticed, and I've hired lots of women over my 21-year career, is that often women and people that grew up in emerging economies don't speak up, right? Um, Now, that doesn't mean complain. Speaking up does not mean complaining. Speaking up means getting what you deserve, right? By communicating with data, right? So, bad example of speaking up is, I am so much smarter than Irina, and Irina got a promotion. That's fucking bullshit. That's not speaking up. That's complaining like a bitch. Don't do that, right? Speaking up is, what did Irina do to get a promotion, right? Because look, maybe we've been so busy, it didn't really come to the surface that for the last 3 quarters, I've been volunteering to do extra X projects, and one of the X projects actually brought to light another $180,000 of pipeline we have, right? And actually, I expect over the next 2 years of my career here at BGS, I'm going to be critical to pushing another $2.5 million of top line product, or another $4 million of features that we're going to sell downstream to our customer base, right? That's speaking up with data, right? The thing is, here in the Valley, where there's a lot more money flowing through seed stage startups, people often ask me, like, why is that seed stage startup with no product and no revenues worth $15 million? And this startup that has $10,000 of revenue a month is only worth $6 million, right? Well, because look, value is a perception of data, right? Like at JetBridge, we just invested in a pre-seed startup at $15 million valuation, which is fucking crazy. It's stupid. But why did we do this? Well, one, we really believe in the founder and we think it's a big market, but our co-investors are Peter Thiel, the great Peter Thiel who wrote 0 to 1, invested in Facebook, et cetera, right? Now, if you look at Peter Thiel's data, it suggests that he's the greatest investor of all time. So the value perception of anything he invests in is it's going to be expensive, right? There's a lot of, when I work with folks from emerging economies outside of India, there's a lot of what I call Soviet silence, right? Anyone have any ideas? Any complaints? Anything have, anyone have anything to add? Any ideas? There's lots of Soviet silence, right? And I think Soviet silence is really damaging to your personal brand, right? In this vacuum of silence, Westerners start to think, oh, you're cheap offshore labor. No wonder we have to suffer the time zone difference with you Ukrainians. You're cheap. In this vacuum of Soviet silence, Westerners think, inject all sorts of incorrect thoughts. Silence is never good. Complaining is not good. Speak up, preferably with data. Next slide. Okay. Diversification is the name of the game. Look, I have a friend, I won't say his name just in case he watches this video, but I have a friend, super smart guy, went to Stanford. He's been investing all his life in the stock market, right? Google, schmoogle, all of that. Um, and I told him about 6 months ago, look, I think a global recession is coming. It's inevitable, right? It's like Game of Thrones winter. Even if you don't believe it, trust me, it's going to come. You should really diversify your stock portfolio, right? Um, and he didn't do that. He was like, no, 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 no. Twilio's going to be great forever. Uber is going to be amazing. And he lost quite a bit of money because he didn't really diversify. Whether it's your investments or your skill set, diversification is the name of the game. So this is what this looks like, right? You're a back-end developer in Python. Great. Learn some fucking React on the weekends, right? You're a front-end developer, right? And you're a master of JavaScript. Actually, no one's a master of JavaScript, but learn some Python, right? If you know Python, learn some DevOps. If you're a UI UX person, take some psychology courses. It really helps, right? If you're in support, learn sales. There's some great books on sales out there, right? If you're in sales, learn support. Did you know that some of the greatest, highest money-making salespeople I know, do you know what their core little secret is? They're really good at customer support. Really. Diversify your skill sets, really. Sam Altman, the former president of Y Combinator, said something that really struck me as true. He said, in most of the successful founders that we've invested in, they've been multi-talented at more than one thing, right? Yes, they're a great programmer, but they're also really good at guitar, right? And this is something else that Sumner Redstone, the CEO of a huge media company called Viacom, he said the same thing. He said, my most talented executives are multi-talented, right? Yeah, they're good at writing scripts for movies, but they're also great painters, right? Diversify your skill sets. It's a trait of successful people. I know it doesn't sound logical, but it must be something in splitting your brain and making you stronger, right? You want to exercise both your left and your right arm. Right? I don't know exactly why this is, but it is definitely true. All right. The other thing too is I think it helps to have new perspectives. And so having new perspectives and elevating the type of people you get to hang out with or you get to correspond with, which I'll talk about in just a second, it requires you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Let me say that again, because it's really important. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You see this all the time, right? Whether it's in dating or in work or in your social life, right? If you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're just going to get more stuff, right? More boyfriends or girlfriends of higher caliber, more money, more job opportunities, more investment opportunities, more travel opportunities, right? You're just going to get more if you get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? How many of you, again, I'm a straight guy, not a woman, but I think a lot of guys can empathize with this, right? How many times have you been to like chi or hangover with your friends and you say, hey, Yuri, you should go talk to that girl. I think she likes you. And Yuri says, oh, no. I think she has boyfriend. And you're like, how do you know she has a boyfriend? She looks like she has a boyfriend, right? It's idiotic. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And this is a core skill that you should acquire over time, right? Like I said in the beginning, most people act like fucking idiots most of the time because they run on fear, right? A fear of rejection, a fear of failure, a fear of embarrassment. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And finally, diversify your skill set. Lots of startups or good businesses are born out of side hustles. I have a friend here in San Francisco. He's a brilliant SDR. He's not a programmer, but he's technical enough to do, email sequencing and, um, set up email hooks and all of that. He's not a programmer, but he's technical enough. So he taught himself, I think it was Tableau, um, just to diversify his skill set. And then he discovered that he could take a bunch of pricing on Amazon, visualize the data, and figure out how to arbitrage products like masks and gloves. He still has his SDR job, but he makes almost $7,000 a month on his Amazon side hustle. I mean, it took about a year, maybe a little longer than a year, but hey, $7,000 a month is your side hustle. It's not bad. It's not bad, right? If you don't have a side hustle, I always encourage you, always be running a new experiment, right? Whether it's arbitraging Amazon, or you want to you have an idea for a product, but you don't want to code it up because it's going to take 6 months or a year and you don't have the time. Build a landing page. Build a landing page and throw $300 of ads behind it and just see what the conversion rate is like, right? Always be running some experiment, right? And the experiment can just be cold outreaching to super smart people and asking them just to have a conversation with you about an idea you have or some questions you have, just like we're talking like this. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute, okay? But always be diversifying your skill set. The worst thing that you could be is the old Java developer. That's like, I don't know about this Python and Go. I don't know why the fuck people are learning Go. Java, J2EE. It was the greatest language ever. I don't need to learn anything else. Do you know anyone hiring for Java? That's what I do, right? You don't want to be that guy or that gal, right? Diversify your skill set. Next slide. Okay. This is not the easiest thing to do because it's hard for us to change who we spend the most time with. But it is true that you are an average of the 5 professionals you spend the most time with. Okay. So I'm not saying ditch all 5 people and get a new job, but every 6 months, try to add someone new into your network. Doesn't mean you have to hang out with them all the time, but just try to have a 20, 30-minute Zoom conversation with them, right? And network with them by adding value. One of the worst things, and I'm really trying to fix this by giving more lectures like this, guys, I get pitched almost every day from Ukrainians for a job or an investment, or they're doing a startup and they need help. 99, 98% of the pitches are such shit. Do you know why? Because they ask for a donation instead of adding value to something I'm doing, right? For example, if I wanted to work at VGS, right? The 98% way, the most common thing I hear is, Mr. John, I'm Yuri. Very smart person. I'm not really the best developer, but I really want to learn and I'm going to work hard. So can I have a job? John, we are Infosys. We are a revolutionary security platform and we're looking for funding. Would you like to invest? Right? And the answer is always no, right? Because one, if you don't even know how to pitch, why would I give you a job or give you money? Like, you don't even know how to pitch. If I wanted to work at VGS or get an investment, right, I would first have a short list of people that I thought would make good partners, good investors, good employer, good boss, whatever. I would read everything I could. I'd follow them on Twitter. I'd read all their Medium articles. I'd read every press release that their company has produced. How long is this going to take? 30 minutes, right? 30 minutes per person. And I would reach out with a highly custom message and see if I could add value, right? First. Um, I always love when, and usually they're from like smart kids from Stanford or Berkeley because they've kind of had this training, right? Harvard kids do this really well, right? They'll send an email like, excuse me, John, I found a bug in your software and I just wanted to send it to you so you could forward it to the proper tech team. But also, I'm a user of your free version. I love it. I've been sharing it with all my friends. And I have an idea for a new feature that I think would be incredible for your existing customer base. Do you have 10 minutes to chat? Now, first, I'm demonstrating that I've added value. I found a bug. So I've given you free money. I've given you something. I'm letting you know that you don't want to reject me or treat me like an asshole because I'm a customer. I tell lots of other people about your business and your brand, right? And if you spend 10 minutes with me, I might have an idea that could make your organization more money. It doesn't have to be this thing where like, well, maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe he won't like it. He'll think I'm an idiot. No, that's fucking idiotic thinking, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's a good idea or a bad idea. The purpose of this message is to get a meeting and establish a relationship. That's all. But you do that by first demonstrating something of value to them, right? You give them something. You don't ask for something. And I think in Ukraine, and I see this in Belarus, Russia as well, there's a lot of, hey, I'm Yuri, give me something, right? This doesn't work, right? So you elevate your average 5 by every 6 months trying to add someone that you would like to be like into your network, right? Now, my last piece of advice is don't just choose ambitious people, choose ethical people, right? One of my friends in Kiev is a really good salesman. He's a tall, good-looking Ukrainian guy. He speaks amazing English, super charming. And he was working for the Milton Group. You know, these pieces of shit that make Ukraine look bad by cheating foreigners on crypto. Milton Group. He was working for them. And he thought, oh, these are great people. They're making so much money. And I remember telling Vlad, like, you don't want to do this job forever, man. Just because they make a lot of money aren't good people to add to your network. And of course, what happened, right? They were exposed. And now if he tells people I worked at the Milton Group, how is he going to get a good job ever with a great company like JetBridge or VGS? He's a cheater forever. Reputation is more important than money. Choose ambitious and ethical people to elevate your network. Okay, next slide. Okay. This is a cold email, and I like this format, so feel free to use this as a template. All right. There is, we were working on a tool for sales teams, and I needed data. I needed someone to say, this is good, this is bad. We would pay $100 for this feature. We'll pay $10 for that feature. So I needed to talk to VP of sales at great companies, right? So this is the email that I sent, right? And the first, now here's the thing. Every email you send to someone like this to add to your network, right, is basically an ad. It's an advertisement. So what appears in the subject line and the first 67 characters of the first sentence that appears on their iPhone? People don't think about this stuff as marketers. They think about this shit as beggars. Hi, I'm Yuri. Give me, Rob. I need, give me. It's fucking idiotic, right? So the first thing you want to do is, as I said, establish value, right? So the first sentence that appears on Robert's iPhone is, hi, Robert, I'm a local SF resident and the founder of Five9. Now, you guys are going to have a different first sentence because you're young and you haven't had time to build your own companies yet. But I'm going to tell you a second secret. of successful rich people, at least in America. Successful rich people, the good ones, they don't care about money as much as they used to. And they care more about helping other people. These people want to help you, but you have to show them that you can add value, right? Okay, so what do I say? First sentence says, I'm a local SF resident and the founder of a company you probably have heard of. Again, that works for me. It may not work for you, right? But he knows, one, I'm here, and two, I live in the same city he does. If he rejects me, we could run into each other, right? He's probably going to open this email. Doesn't mean he's going to respond, because next you'll realize instead of from Ukrainians, I get these long unformatted messages about themselves or their startup idea. I don't do that. I break down my message in 2 bullet points. Number 1 and number 2. And you'll notice in number 2, I've read about his side hustle. His side hustle is this Norwegian venture network. So in number 2, I say, look, maybe there's some ways that we can work together with the thing you're doing with your side hustle, right? Okay, next slide. And this is the response that Rob sent me. Right? He said, thanks for reaching out. Love the personalized touch. We just finished sales training on triggers, attention grabbers, and relevance, and you could not have done better. You want to meet on Monday? You will be surprised how well this template works. Lots of rich, successful Americans, they want to help smart young people like you. It makes us feel good. But you have to reach out in the correct format that shows, 1, you're smart, and 2, you know how to pitch. If you sound like a Soviet dumb shit and you have this long rambling thing about your startup, right? Like most of the messages I get, people think, why should I help this person? They're hopeless. They don't even know how to pitch. They don't know how to add value. Follow this template. You'll be surprised how many people respond to you. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, great. This sounds obvious, right? Be ambitious. The thing is, if you believe, like I do, my wife is very religious, but I'm 50-50. I kind of think once you die, this is it, right? If I'm right, and this is it, don't you want to treat your career just like a VC-funded startup, right? Meaning your life, it's worth millions and millions of dollars. You want the best people on board, right? You have the highest expectations of yourself. Often when I've interviewed many Ukrainians now, right? In my 2-3 years now in Ukraine. And I love it. I fucking love our Ukrainian team. I kind of feel like my family. But there's way too many people I interview and I ask the question, what are you doing in 5 years? And the answers range from, I'm on a beach in Thailand, just chilling, making money, doing something easy, max money for minimum work. Max money, minimum work. Beach in Thailand, that's what I'm doing, right? And other people say, well, in 5 years, I would like to have an apartment in Pechers, a small BMW, and 3 holidays a year, right? This is the problem. If it's true that 78% of the world's educated population can be just as successful or more than me, right? Then those are shitty ambitions. Have higher ambitions, right? That means you should be accountable for where you want to be. Everyone on this call has an opportunity to be a part of Silicon Valley because you're working for a great Silicon Valley company, right? If You play a critical role at VGS, and I'm sure you guys are small enough right now where anyone can step up and play a critical role. If you play a critical role at VGS and you ride it out all the way until the VGS IPO or until McAfee buys VGS for $1 billion, you'll see opportunities will come to you. Opportunities will come to you. And if you want to start your own company after the VGS liquidity event, you'll see investors will be like, oh, wow, what did VGS? Yeah, that was a great exit. What did you do? Well, it's a part of the critical infrastructure that allowed us to scale from 1,000 to 15,000 customers, blah. Great, that's amazing, right? You all have an opportunity to have the same opportunities that I had, right? And so you're lucky to be part of the VGS team, right? So there's no excuses. You are not some poor village boy outside of Nikolaev, right? Just like, God, if someone would give me a chance. You already have it. So one of my tricks, my mental tricks, and I did this when I was poor, and I was poor for most of my life, is I visualized what my life was going to be like in 10 years. And every time I was working late on Saturday night, I was working on Sunday, every night or morning I felt depressed, or I felt I was working too hard. I was so tired. I was never going to get that big customer. I was never going to get that investment. I visualized exactly what I wanted my dream life to look like in 10 years. What house I would be living in, what neighborhood, what car, who my friends would be, the types of things I would do, right? And I used it as my own Rocky-like montage, right? Have your own Rocky-like montage, right? Uh, and I've heard other people that are successful, when we kind of have drinks and talk, about how we struggled our way up to success. A lot of people say the same thing. I had a similar montage in my head. I knew I would be doing this and living here and be with these people, living this type of life. Visualization of your goal, right? It helps you get through a lot of hard times. And there's lots of hard times in anyone's successful career, right? Now, it's great to have a dream that you can visualize, right? Like a music video montage, right? But you have to break up this vision into baby steps, right? So what I did was every 3 to 6 months, I had a goal, right? Well, I want to start my own company. So in 6 months, then I'm going to have to do this. In 9 months, I'm going to have to do this. And in 12 months, a critical milestone, I'm going to have to get at least $500,000 in funding. It's important that at each of your critical milestones, you have a plan B if that critical milestone doesn't happen. And it's so important because so many people do this where they're like, oh, I have this milestone and this milestone at this critical milestone that didn't happen. Oh, fine, forget it. That was a stupid dream anyway. But if you have a plan B, yes, you might drop down a little bit, but you're still always in this trajectory where you're kind of going up and to the right, right? So your next critical milestone may be, well, I need someone to give me $500,000 so I can hire some engineers to do this MVP. But have a plan B. Maybe the plan B is that you strip out 90% of the features and you only need $20,000 or $10,000. You're going to build this one feature. You're going to test it out. Maybe the plan B is just to take $1,000 of your own money. And instead of going to Thailand with your friends, you create a landing page and you spend the money to gauge the conversion metrics. I tell you what, if you have a 9% conversion rate on your landing page that has a fake product that doesn't exist yet, trust me, some angel investor is going to get excited about that, right? Always have a plan B to each of your critical milestones so that even if your critical milestone fails, you have a plan B so you could always be moving forward, right? People always ask me, John, I like how you're living. You can fly to Ukraine, you can party, you can start companies anywhere, you kind of, buy anything you want. I want that life. How do I do that? I get this question a lot. How? And I say, it's easy. Say goodbye to your friends and family for 10 years and just break up your vision into these milestones and keep working each milestone, right? A lot of people don't like that answer because they think there's some book I can recommend and this book is going to give them some super secret. There's no fucking secret, okay? There is no fucking secret. Be ambitious and have a plan B for each of your critical milestones. Next slide. Okay, here's the other big problem I see a lot in emerging economies, but especially in Ukraine. A lot. Many Ukrainians think, you know what? I've been to USA 3 times and I have fucking Instagram, okay? You can't, trust me, I know. I got an idea for you, John. Why don't we spend more money in marketing to make more sales? What do you think about that idea? Huh? There's not enough second level thinking. And so what I say to these people is, wonderful. You just told us the sun is round and the sun is hot. Thank you. Being a second level thinker means you don't say things that people can find on Google or Quora or SaaStr or a newsletter, right? Being a second level thinker means you're not jumping on Bitcoin because it just hit 10,000, right? Instead, you have long-term predictions about what's the long-term trend in security? What's the long-term trend in energy meters? What's the long-term trend for SaaS, right? For example, here's level 1 thinking. John, I got this SaaS company. It's amazing. It's CRM for people that build new apartment buildings, right? It's amazing. We already have 5 customers. It's going to be a unicorn. Right? Well, how do you know it's going to be a unicorn? Well, because we already got customers. That doesn't mean anything. So that's level 1 thinking, right? We already got customers. We raise money from investors. We put more money. We get more customers, and then we're all rich and sitting on a beach in Thailand, right? Level 1 thinking. Level 2 thinking is, okay, that's great. What's the 5-year, 10-year prospect for SaaS products? They're probably going to be highly commoditized. If you guys could build this in 4 months, 6 months, anyone can build it in 4 to 6 months. And what's the long-term trend in terms of building apartment buildings? Well, the long-term trend is, look, we're going to probably see a construction slowdown because a recession is coming. And when recessions come, you see lots of those big cranes like you see at Unit City and at other places around Kiev, and they're not doing shit because construction has stopped. So over the next 5 years, where we're probably going to live through a recession, there's not going to be a lot of construction of new apartment buildings. So that's great. You're making sales now, but I don't want to invest in it. Be a second level thinker. In too many meetings in Ukraine, I get obvious the sun is round and the sun is hot ideas, right? I also get lots of people asking me questions whose answers can be found on your iPhone. John, how much money did that company raise? Do you not have a fucking iPhone? Don't ask smart, successful people questions whose answers can be found on your iPhone. Be a second level thinker. Now, how are you a second level thinker where you're thinking about recessions and what construction companies are going to be doing during a recession versus this person that's like, we're making sales, so just give me some more money, we'll put it in marketing, we'll get more sales, and we'll be rich, right? What's the difference between the first level thinker and the second level thinker? The second level thinker has access to incredible amounts of data. and opinions, right? So data can be things that you either find through your own experiments. I just spent $1,000 on this landing page, and this product is a 9% conversion rate. We don't have the product yet, but I know what the interest is, right? I read a book on psychology, and even though it has nothing to do with UI UX design, what I learned was that 50% of the time, eyes don't like to cross lines. Eyes don't like to cross lines 50% of the time. Wow, that's incredible data. And it can also be data from people that, like Rob, you sent him a great cold outreach email. He agreed to have a 15, 20-minute conversation with you. And you're asking him, Rob, you're a VC funded startup. What percentage of the money you raise do you invest in engineering? What percentage do you invest in marketing? Right? You're getting all of this wonderful data. This guy, the first level thinker, has BBM syndrome and thinks he knows everything. Oh, we're making money. We're going to be a unicorn. You know how many times I hear people say that? Well, you should probably invest now because in 2 years we're going to be a unicorn. Right? The second level thinker has access to all sorts of data. And when he speaks, he or she will say, actually, that's wonderful. You're going to be a unicorn and a big boss man in 2 years. But did you know that during the last two recessions of 2001 and 2008, construction of new apartments decreased by 65%? That means next year, 65% of your customers are going to go out of business. 65%. That's a second level thinker. Be a second level thinker. Ukraine, unfortunately, is dominated by first level thinkers. Become a second level thinker. And foreigners won't think you're cheap offshore labor. They'll think you are their peer, right? They graduated from Harvard and Stanford. Be their peer. Don't be cheap offshore labor. Last slide. This is, was it T.S. Eliot or E.E. Cummings? Famous poet that said, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. I read that when I was young and I thought, God, that's fucked up. I don't want to be old, be an old man living in a life of desperation. If it's true that this is it, there is no reincarnation where you go up to heaven and you're granted 25 virgins or 25 beautiful men who are going to give you massages all day. And this is it. This is the one life we have. You really don't have a choice. You have to be courageous, right? There is also a phrase that says fortune favors the brave, right? And being brave is about believing in yourself against all logical odds, right? The truth is, and let me close with this. The truth is, I didn't go to Stanford or Harvard. I don't have rich parents that showed me a lot of rich and powerful friends. I grew up in a good neighborhood with mostly rich white people. And there were not many Asian people, right? So I got into a lot of fights because people called me like Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, right? Girls didn't want to date me because I was Asian and I wasn't white. It was very difficult growing up like this. And I'm also from a Korean family where Koreans expect all their sons to be high level performers. And for most of my career, I was poor, right? It took 10 years for my first startup to become successful, 10 years. And my family would make fun of me. At Thanksgiving, on holidays, at Christmas, we would all get together and people would make jokes about what a loser I was. And everyone would laugh, right? It was easy to take all of this and say like, fine, forget it. It's fucking too hard. I'd fail, but you have to believe that, look, I'm part of that 78% of the human population that can be successful if I follow these 10 rules, right? So again, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You're asking out that cute girl or guy, or you're asking that investor for money. You're doing a cold outreach to someone you've never met, but you want to add them to your network. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And one of the tricks to doing that is just to tell yourself, if someone says no and rejects me, it's just data. It's just data, right? It doesn't mean that you're a low worth person or that your life is fucked forever. No, it's just one data point in 10,000 data points you need to collect. Finally, you call it IT. We call it tech. You know why? Because tech is about risk taking. It's about taking risk. IT is about being cheap, offshore labor. Work in tech, not in IT, and understand that it's a difference. How many 50-year-old programmers do you guys work with? How many at VGS? How many 50-year-old software developers are there at VGS? Tech is a young person's game. Tech is a young person's game. It's not that much different than being a professional athlete, guys and gals. Okay? If you are not on the trajectory to being successful by the time you're 30, you're probably going to end up like that old fat guy with the ponytail that loves Java forever. Right? Tech is a young person's game. You're not going to be cute forever. You're not going to be young forever. But if you're courageous now by being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you get comfortable with being uncomfortable because you just accept rejection as just data, then you can follow these 10 rules fairly easily. And like me, you can only be a fucking idiot 25% of the time. And trust me, you will be as successful or more successful than me. Okay, questions. Let's 15 minutes for questions.
Guys, do we have some questions? Who would like to ask John?
I had a question about competency. If you're in, what else can you do? But I think you already answered. You said about support and you said about psychology, which was cool.
Thank you, Maria. No other questions? You guys are easy crowd.
Hey, John, this is Yuri from VGS. So wanted to ask you, as an investor, what are the major things you're looking for in product and people who are like selling you their idea?
Yeah. So look, the first thing I look for is how good are you at pitching? Now, I know this doesn't make sense to first-time founders because you're like, what the fuck does that matter? I've got a great product, great idea, and a great team. Here's why that matters. Investors, we play a pyramid scheme game, okay? And this is, I think, a secret of investors that most first-time founders don't know. We're playing a pyramid scheme game, meaning it works like this. You come to me and you're really good at pitching, so you convince me and Peter Thiel you should be worth $15 million even before you have a problem. Great. Okay. Why do we care? Because when the Series A round comes, we want you to be able to pitch to Founders Fund, right? Or Andreessen, and argue that this company is now worth 45 million, so that I have tripled my money. How am I going to triple my money if you're not good at pitching? But if you're great at pitching, by the way, being great at pitching is just developing a muscle. Anyone can do it, right? Because great pitching is really about telling good stories with data, right? So you're good at pitching me, right? And what makes good? Well, you've probably done all your homework and you've accumulated all of this data. And so you come to me and say, John, the furniture delivery market where people order furniture from the internet and have it delivered. Today, it's just a $1.2 billion market, but in 7 years, many smart people say it's going to be a $12 billion market. But I actually have a secret about this industry that other people don't know. And it's a secret that I've come to by accumulating a lot of data that is not publicly available. You have 15 minutes to chat. Now, as an investor, one, that's great. You did a lot of homework, you gathered this data. Most investors believe that great companies know a secret that the world does not know yet. PageRank. What do you mean? There's 12 search engines. Why does the world need a 13th search engine? Because it turns out PageRank is the one secret that Larry and Sergey know makes a much better search engine. And none of the other 12 search engine companies know this secret. John, do you have time to meet with me for 15 minutes so I can tell you about the secret of PageRank? Of course I'm gonna take that meeting. Now, if I know that you're good at pitching, right, then I know that in a Series A, you're gonna sell the company at a $45 million valuation. You're good at pitching, so at Series B, you're gonna sell this at a $120 million valuation, right? So that's the first thing people look for. And that's why so many, I think, people in the USA too, right? They fuck themselves. Maybe they do have a good idea. Maybe they do understand a secret that nobody else understands. But they don't take the time to formulate a good pitch. And that immediately says, I'm not a good investment. I don't know how to multiply your investment on later rounds, right? So the first thing you have to do is get good at pitching, right? Kirill at Preply has a great story about this, right? He emailed a bunch of investors. They all said no, but every month he just kept emailing them. Here's our growth numbers, right? And eventually the investors thought, this guy Kirill knows something about marketplaces that we don't know. Let's have another meeting with him, right? Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
By the way, if you want to get good at pitching, here's a crash course. On YouTube, go look at old Y Combinator or 500 Startup demo day pitches. They're all similar. They all follow a similar template. Right? Just follow that template and it'll force yourself to get good at pitching. Okay.
Thank you,
Any
John.
other
We
questions?
also have one. Yeah. We also have
Yeah.
some prepared before, asked before the questions. How long did it take you to recognize Ukrainian mindset, like special Ukrainian features that you're observing now?
Well, first, I'd like to say, as someone that's Asian and has experienced a lot of racism growing up in America, one of the things I noticed about Ukrainian people is they're very, very open to new people, open to new cultures, open to new experiences. And this is what makes Ukrainians, I think, very special, really, really special. Even when I walk with my wife in Mykolaiv, no one gives us a dirty look. People are very curious, ask me where I'm from. Beautiful, wonderful people. And I love this about Ukrainian culture. I think the negative part that we need to work on is the shit that the old Soviet Union taught us, right? Like, be silent, don't speak up. Money is more important than money. Don't take risk. Don't work extra hours. It's stupid. Don't trust your boss. Don't trust your government. Don't trust anyone outside your family, right? Hard work is for idiots. These are all, this is a true story. During the Gay Pride Parade in Kiev, which I'm a big supporter of, I saw some people I was connected to, complain about the Gay Pride Parade. Oh, God hates gay people. Why do I have to sit in traffic just because they blocked off Kreshadek and it's so stupid? right? So one of these people that was posting every day about like God hates gay people said, John, I noticed you're friends with the president of Y Combinator on Facebook. Will you please introduce me and tell him to accept me? I've applied 3 times. I've been rejected twice. I've applied 2 times. I've been rejected 2 times. I want to apply the 3rd time. And I said, I don't want to say his name, but I said, why do you want to apply to Y Combinator? Sam is gay and God hates gays. And he said, really? Sam is gay? I said, yes. You want to get into Y Combinator and you didn't even do your research on Sam? The negative parts, I think, of Ukraine is, one, is while we're wonderfully open to other cultures, Africans, Americans, Europeans, this God hates gays, it's very bad. It is not in line with modern thinking. Besides, you know who makes your iPhones? A gay guy. You know who built Y Combinator and accepted wonderful companies like Allsaid and PetCube? A gay guy, right? Look, Peter Thiel, the greatest investor in the history of Silicon Valley? A gay guy, right? We have got to be a bit more open and join the modern world, right? And so these are the kind of negative things that I think the next generation is really going to fix. But already Ukrainians are, let's face it, Ukrainians are good looking people, maybe some of the best looking people in the world, both men and women, right? They're creative. Ukrainians are so creative. You guys have coffee shops and bars and restaurants, things that you don't see in the United States, except in Las Vegas, right? So once we have all the soft skills part and the ambition and understanding reputation is more important than money, understanding the greatest risk is not taking risk. You know, most Ukrainians in IT, they want to work for Sequum or somewhere they feel safe. Their life goal is to buy an apartment in Pechirsk one day, right? This is all Soviet thinking. Once we can get over the Soviet thinking, right, and leverage all the amazing qualities that Ukrainians have had for hundreds of years, right? I really think Ukraine can be the next South Korea. I really believe that. Any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It will definitely happen, you know. We're a bit out of time. If you're still available to stay with us for a couple of minutes, just wanted to clarify.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay,
I
great. Yeah, Mary, sure.
So, John, now we have lots of people telling different things how to actually sell in times of COVID-19, how to position yourself in times of COVID-19. Lots of people are telling about being humble. Another bulk of people are telling about like just bringing the value and doing the price tag lower for companies. What are your thoughts on that, sales in COVID-19 world?
Well, look, here's the level 1 thinking, right? The level 1 thinking is let's sell everyone a mask and gloves. Whatever the digital version of mask and gloves is, let's sell that. Let's build another Zoom, or let's build another video chat function. Let's build another function like Slack. I think the second level thinking is, look, where are we going to be in 5 years, right? In 5 years, the money will have shifted. By the way, this is a great myth about recessions or depressions. Money doesn't disappear. Money just changes hands. So second level thinking says, well, where is the money going to change hands to? Like where the money is going to disappear from here and go over there. What's over there, right? Over there is probably commercial real estate is going to look a lot different, right? So who are the industries that are going to be doing well? Probably things like remote dating, being able to dine, take out. You're not going to have a traditional office space. There's not going to be open floor plans anymore, right? So there's going to be a whole new wave of architectural work, new interior design work. There's going to be lots of companies selling new ways for us to build a small home office. And if you look down the road, like what's going to happen in terms of energy? Like, look, outside, there's not that much traffic. And now people are saying, wow, the air, it's so amazing, right? And what's this gonna look like? Are we all gonna get back into our cars? In some parts of the world, yeah. But I also think there's gonna be a lot more virtualization of what we do. And so you're gonna see a lot of new industries pop up. Look, there's no magic bullet to sales hacks. Recessions come in waves like a tsunami. The first wave has hit us. There's going to be several more waves, at least. So even though you're selling to a company that you think has money and is fine, if you follow the logic down the line, right, their customers may not have a job, right? They may not have money. So there's really no sales hacks that you can do other than what I said before. The best salespeople do, and I learned this from one of the best salespeople. He sold medical devices, and this guy made almost $1 million a year. He was not a vice president. He was not a salesman. He was just regular sales guy. Made almost $1 million a year. And I asked, his name was Steve Arnold. I said, Steve, so what's the secret to sales? And he said, the secret to sales is support. And he called it the 3 T's. You know, Americans love alliteration, you can tell. He said, I call it a touch, tap, and turn, right? So I routinely go to my customers or my old leads and I just touch them, or right? And I tap them and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? Your kids doing okay? How's the business? Okay. And the touch part is like just reconnecting with them, right? Just like good support people. And then the turn part is to say like, look, now that we're speaking and you have identified some new problem or new concern that you have, maybe I can turn that around and maybe we have a product that can help you with this, right? Called it the tap, touch, turn. That's right. Tap them on the shoulder. How are you doing? Touch them. How are the kids? How's the family? How's the business? Do you have any problems in the business? And turn is to say, look, let me turn some of your problems around with some of the features or products that we have, right? This does not mean that suddenly a company that lost half of its customers is going to continue to buy from you, right? It's probably going to be a year to a year and a half of pain. But look, this is a great time to diversify your skill sets. And this is, if you're in sales, this is a great time to learn how to be a great support person too, right? Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I forgot you were a SDR. Okay, VGS team, thank you guys so much. And I hope to be able to have a beer or a cocktail with you guys at Loggerhead one day soon, I hope.
Thank you, John. Thank you for sharing those insights. It was really insightful and really exciting, and we're really pleased that you've come to us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hope to meet you in person.
Thanks a lot, John.
I know.
Whenever,
Thank you. Super awesome. Thank you.
It was
whenever you are, you just come to our office.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a
Bye,
nice.
everyone. Thanks a lot, Yulia.
Это Ире тоже спасибо большое.
Дякую.
Bye-bye.
Пока, на добраніч усім.